Good morning and welcome to Ango In The Morning. This is episode 5. Today it is December 1st, 2021. We are officially on the road to the holiday season. I'm excited. It's my favorite time of the year. I hope you are all excited because usually around this time of the year, things get amplified, especially in wrestling and stuff too. So, guys, this is going to be an interesting show because we actually had to push back yesterday's episode. I wasn't feeling too good, so I do apologize for that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about bad news for Bryan Danielson. Not just Bryan Danielson, but New Japan altogether, plus AEW. Again, things are being thrown into the plans. You know, wrenches are being thrown. Things are getting screwed up. On top of that, we are going to talk about how would I change AEW and WWE. This might be controversial. People may not like what I have to say, but at the end of the day, we all have opinions, and I feel like this would be the perfect time to kind of address what I think AEW and WWE should do. AEW may not need a lot of change. WWE might need a shit ton of change. So we're going to talk about that. Before we talked about who is the next big star, we talked a little bit about this very subtly within the show, not just in WWE, but altogether in wrestling in general. So I do want to talk about this in a larger, more in-depth way because, Austin Theory is now getting a push. Some people believe he's going to be the next big star. Then you got guys on AEW who are all kicking ass. I have somebody who I truly think is the next big star of pro wrestling, despite the fact that I may not even be the biggest fan of him. So it's going to be really, 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 really good times here on Ango In The Morning. And I wanted to share with everybody just my sincere gratitude, honestly. A lot of great things are happening on this channel, so if it wasn't for you guys, I don't know what I would be able to do, man. AEW, do they need gimmick matches? We don't see them too often. I have some ideas with gimmick matches, maybe one that AEW should do. And then, of course, I do want to talk to you guys about NXT 2.0 because it was yesterday, and I want to know what you guys think. I'm going to tell you guys what I think, and yeah. Of course, if you guys have any questions, don't forget you can leave a super chat. If you leave a super chat, just understand that your questions will be answered at the end of the show. Sorry about that. I was just looking at the chat. I see some people bringing up Oxford High School. Literally not even like 20 minutes away. I used to work in that area, so as you can imagine, that stuff was crazy. Obviously, yeah, my heart goes out to everybody over there. It's kind of weird when it's like in your backyard thing, but nonetheless, let's keep it positive. Guys, I'm super excited about today's show because there is some bad news for Bryan Danielson. There is some bad news for AEW, and there is some bad news for New Japan because if some of you are on the internet, I'm not even going to tell you about watching like your mainstream news channel, but if you guys are on the internet, then you guys are very well aware of what's happening now at this stage of the pandemic. Just as things look to be getting better, then there's another strain, which is essentially causing some more issues and travel restrictions. And, right now in the United States, there's no restrictions, right? In the United States, all the arenas, everything is open. With Japan, though, they are in a whole different ballpark, and we still don't know what this actually means other than the fact that it is being watched very carefully. Now, I got to tread lightly here because with YouTube, I don't want to be censored and demonetized, and I don't want any of that to happen. But nonetheless, the big thing is Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, and there's just so many different dream matches between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And when it comes to this pandemic, a lot of these things aren't like, there's nothing that's guaranteed here that's going to allow them to work with each other at this point. Like, we've seen the Forbidden Door open at times, but right now, as it stands, it's not necessarily the best situation. And that is largely due to the fact that there are travel restrictions, right? There's quarantines that you have to do. That is very difficult. I'm going to be honest with you. It's very difficult, especially for somebody like Bryan Danielson, to go quarantine for 10, 14 days, 3 days, 4 days, go to Japan, come back. Now, New Japan Pro Wrestling has come out, and obviously Will Ospreay has come out, and Will Ospreay was talking about how he has the ability to still work for Wrestle Kingdom, which it sounds like there is some workaround for some talent based on work visas. But the idea that Bryan Danielson and AEW are going to have some sort of dream match, it's like absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a crazy idea, but right now it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. And it sucks because this pandemic has definitely screwed things up. We have seen this time and time again, and because there's a workaround for certain talent, other talent don't have that workaround. So no, the idea that Bryan Danielson will now go to Japan is pretty much thrown out. The belief is that it's not going to happen right now. And to be honest with you, I don't know. Here's the thing, guys. When I look at what AEW and New Japan have done so far with their working relationship, personally, in my opinion, it's cool, but there could be way more that's done. And I can't blame AEW for the situation because obviously this pandemic ruined a lot. That is my point. So as much as I want to criticize the working relationship, and again, it's just me personally, my opinion, I don't think the working relationship for AEW with any company really has been that exciting. That's just my opinion. I can cut them some slack here, personally, and say it's not that big of a deal because obviously the pandemic. Mexico was pretty open for the most part. AEW didn't work with them as much. Japan, on the other hand, was always closed down. There was always restrictions and stuff like that, and we still got a couple people here and there. So it is bad news for Bryan Danielson. It's bad news for AEW. It's bad news for New Japan because this new variant that exists, they're still learning more information about. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to tell you guys what to do. But what I am saying is this. There is a situation right now where the pandemic is going to throw a wrench in the plans of AEW's working relationship. You got to keep in mind there's work visas, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's involved when something like this happens. And I think sometimes people do forget that. So just kind of keep that in mind for those who are getting excited about the idea, the potential of seeing Bryan Danielson and Okada, or CM Punk and Okada, CM Punk versus Kenta. That was something that was rumored for a while. Then we saw Kenta challenge CM Punk. I don't know if this is going to be... I don't know if this is something they'll ever come back to. Because I don't know what this stage of the pandemic means. Obviously, there is a lot of stuff, vaccines, and they're working on medication. They're working on a lot of stuff. There's a lot of talks about this, a lot of stuff about that, whatever. Again, your personal opinions are your personal opinions on the pandemic. But ultimately, if they're restricting travel, if they're making quarantines happen. See, right now in the U.S., you don't have to quarantine. A lot of people do tend to forget that. I think, like, for example, Bryan Danielson could fly, from Seattle to Miami. He doesn't have to quarantine. Now, I don't know which people have received their shots in AEW. Tony Khan said for the most part, everybody has, for the most part. Most people have. He claimed that he did because of obviously his role with the NFL. So my thing is, when I see that Tony Khan has come out and talked about it, AEW, that tells me AEW keeps moving. They're going to keep moving forward. It tells me they're going to keep moving forward. But the problem is, how they move forward will likely not involve New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it's really not that big of a deal for right now, because we're still in the early stage of whatever we call this. But I do think we are getting to the point where AEW is now in a situation, thankfully, where they don't have to rely on the talent from other companies. I don't think they've really ever had to rely on talent from other companies. I just think right now, as it stands, I think AEW has done a really good job. For me, personally, just as a fan, again, I don't think their working relationship with most of these companies were that successful. I don't think they were like, oh my God. But again, that's because I really put over AEW's young talent. I look at a guy like Dante Martin and I look at him and I think this guy shouldn't be a star. I don't think there's anything special about this guy. But for some reason, AEW made me really like this kid and say, AEW really made me get invested in him and want to see more from him. So maybe it's a good thing I don't really care about their working relationships because they've done such a good job of putting over their younger talent. Something I feel like they've done a really, really good job with. Me personally. How would I change AEW? And then we will discuss how will I change WWE. And trust me, when it comes to AEW, what I would change about AEW and what I would change about WWE are two different things. But I want to talk about this because personally speaking, I think there are a couple things about WWE that really aggravate me as a fan. Whereas AEW doesn't aggravate me as a fan, it just aggravates me with the way they speak and the way they publicize things. Because I got criticized yesterday on Twitter, just slightly criticized, not even a big deal, but I got slightly criticized. People said, I was basically talking about CM Punk versus Lee Moriarty. And I get it. Not everybody agrees with my statement here. But basically what I said was Lee Moriarty is 2-6. That's his record. And he's going to be competing against CM Punk on Dynamite. And personally, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to have MJF cost CM Punk the match. This way, Lee Moriarty can get a big win under his record and start getting pushed. Because in realistic terms, what I'm doing is trying to put over Lee Moriarty, a guy who has a shit ton of opportunity, but a terrible record. And you got people defending AEW's win-loss record, saying, oh, it doesn't matter because Jungle Boy lost a lot of matches, a lot of this, a lot of that. Well, yeah, because fans are willing to forget. Fans are willing to forget. Fans are willing to accept what AEW does versus WWE. They are not on the same pedestal. I have said this several times on my channel. The way AEW and WWE gets addressed and the way that they get judged are two totally different scenarios. However, the reason why I'm bringing this up and the reason why I'm talking about this, it's not because I think Lee Moriarty should be beating CM Punk. It's because I think AEW should not be booking Lee Moriarty against CM Punk. That was my purpose. And again, this was done because AEW told you guys when they came out as a company that this was a sport and that wins and losses matter. Now, when I watch WWE, it is very freaking clear that wins and losses don't matter. Every single match ends in a DQ. Every single match is a rematch every single week. We see the same shit for 4 to 6 weeks. At the end of the day, I have addressed this before and I said, WWE doesn't care. You can tell that there is a lack of effort from WWE. Now, when I watch AEW, on the other hand, I have specifically talked about this several times on my channel. I said wins and losses don't matter because sometimes they don't actually look at the wins and losses when it comes to making booking decisions. I proved this was clear. Hangman Page had a worse record than Miro. Miro lost his TNT championship and was not put in the ladder match, despite the fact that his wins and losses were better than Hangman Page's. Now, AEW had to finish the story with Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, and we were all willing to excuse it because we don't really care. It's not a big deal. It was entertaining, right? So we're not mad about this. We were never mad. I was never mad about this, despite the fact that this was the thing. I just said wins and losses don't matter. I think wins and losses in AEW don't matter. Just like I don't think they matter in WWE. What I think matters is, can you make it entertaining? And when AEW shows us that sometimes wins and losses don't matter, they still make it entertaining, right? What I would change about AEW is actually pretty simple. Very, very simple. I would go away from the win-loss record. I think they should. Eventually, the show it's going to look really funky in 5 years when the show has people with a record of 100 losses. And then they randomly get a push. See, the problem is AEW said that they were a sport. I don't think they're a sport. The focus is more on the in-ring stuff, but it's not really a sport. Again, not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I tell people all the time it's not a big deal. I just think sometimes they were too much, and especially in the beginning, AEW tried to make themselves really, really sound like the alternative to WWE. They didn't need to be the alternative to WWE. What they needed to do was become better than WWE, which is what they established. Wins and losses only matter when you're telling a great story that's long-term. That's the argument I get. Wins and losses, when I say wins and losses don't matter, what I'm saying is we don't need a record to tell us that they matter. If there's a guy on a losing streak and he eventually gets a win, there should be a story about how he got the win. I know people were offended because I was basically saying there should be a screwy finish. I get it. I get that people don't like it. Because in AEW, we don't like screwy finishes. We like clean matches that go 25 minutes, sometimes when they should just be a squash match. But that's what AEW fans like. I've seen this firsthand, which is cool. That's fine with me. But don't forget there was a really long period of time in AEW where every single match ended clean, and then 10 different people from both factions jumped on each other for about 3 minutes, and then they got pushed off camera. I think I personally, as a fan, have gotten to the point where it's like, there's not much I would change about AEW. I would just say, stop trying to say that you're the alternative to WWE. As far as AEW goes, to me, they're almost a near perfect promotion because of the fact that they push their young talent. Dante Martin joining Team Taz. Like, what? I didn't expect that. That was random. But again, I'm invested in Dante Martin. And for some reason, fans hate the idea that for some reason, me personally, I don't care about CM Punk or Bryan Danielson in AEW. They're mad about that. Imagine being mad because somebody doesn't give a shit about CM Punk being in AEW. Guys, I saw what CM Punk did with Eddie Kingston. It went down exactly as I said. The match was very meh. But the problem is, not that the match was meh. It was built on a 2-week notice, pretty much, right? But guess what? Those who know the type of wrestling I enjoy, I like entertainment. I'm not really too crazy about flips and this and that because then it looks like a circus. Then it looks like it's been planned, choreographed. It's just not my thing. But then I saw AEW do Eddie Kingston and CM Punk, and I was like, great, this is awesome. Great promo battle. The match happened. I didn't really care for the match, but nonetheless, it didn't affect me. It didn't bother me. It didn't make me mad. And the reason why that's the case, guys, it's very simple. AEW wasn't telling me a story based on wins and losses. Isn't that crazy how fans love something from AEW when it's not built on wins and losses? So me personally, the only thing I would change about AEW is just get rid of the wins and loss record. Just get rid of it. I don't think you need it. I don't think it gets anybody over personally. I haven't seen it be used in a way that really gets somebody over. It might give people opportunity, and that's fine. I just don't think it gets people over. I'm just saying, we have seen time and time again, a lot of people were willing to criticize AEW because of the fact that they put CM Punk. Just remember this. This was a real thing on social media. People were criticizing AEW because they brought in Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, Ruby Soho, and then CM Punk's first match all in the same night at All Out. So you wonder why I like AEW? Because they think ahead. They're not stupid. Tony Khan knows exactly what he's doing. He knew exactly what he was doing at All Out. So how would I change AEW? Simple. Just get rid of the win-loss record. Everything else you're doing is pretty much near perfect. I don't care for Orange Cassidy. I've said this before. I personally don't care for Orange Cassidy, but people enjoy it. I'm not telling you to get rid of this type of shit. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying get rid of wins and loss records. Orange Cassidy could win a shit ton of matches, or he could lose a shit ton of matches. If he's winning a shit ton of matches, I know that Tony Khan's not going to give him a championship, regardless of win-loss record. Because again, Tony Khan is smart. It's just my personal opinion. How would I change WWE? I would change absolutely everything, and it starts at the top. It starts at the top. WWE needs to strip down everything. WWE needs to change their whole perspective on the business before they could change their product. If you actually think WWE is going to change their product and become entertaining every single week, devote time to the young stars, honestly, you're out of your damn mind, because I just don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're making money. They're doing good. But here's what I would do to change WWE. Here's what I would do. When it comes to WWE, I would focus on the young stars like AEW does. Don't worry about being the alternative. Just be worried about making good storytelling. Personally, when I look at WWE, I look at the young stars. I look at a whole bunch of people. For example, they bring in Humberto Carrillo, and they bring in Garza together, Angel Garza. They make them a tag team. They want me to get invested as this new tag team, but the problem is they've been jobbed out too many times. They want me to get invested into Liv Morgan with Becky Lynch because they randomly threw them together. I can't care about Liv Morgan because I saw how you saw Liv Morgan. I saw how you treated Liv Morgan for a very, very long time. So when I say wins and losses don't matter, earlier I'm talking about a win-loss record. But now in WWE, I'm talking about actual booking. See, there's an actual difference. That's the thing with WWE. I would change the entire system first. Between who's booking the show, the type of business model it has, the type of TV partners it has, because you could say WWE going to TV 14 is going to make the product better. I don't agree with that. If anything, you're going to get a whole bunch of dick jokes in 2021. Stupid. TV 14 ain't going to be shit for WWE. WWE has different rules because they're a publicly traded company, and AEW doesn't because they're not publicly traded. AEW did a death match. WWE ain't doing a death match. When you get Extreme Rules, you barely get Extreme Rules. My point is, you have to change WWE from the ground up. That means everything. The base of the company. You have to change the way you write the show. You have to remove scripts completely. Guys, UBS Arena just happened Monday Night Raw. WWE was in a situation where they had to tarp off like certain like sections and shit. I just find it crazy that WWE has a performance center, and right now, as it stands, AEW does a better job of developing talent. Or maybe it actually has less to do with developing talent, right? But more about giving people opportunities based on crowd reactions. So you want to know why the UBS Arena was not sold out for WWE? And why it's nearly sold out for AEW? I'm telling you guys, people are invested into the youth of AEW. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson and all these people, they're just there to give the business a boost. But right now, the real focus is on the youth, the future. Whereas WWE's main selling point is these larger-than-life characters. I can't understand why WWE brings in Hulk Hogan. But if you can't develop the next John Cena or the next Roman Reigns or the next top guy, you got to bring in Hulk Hogan. You got to bring in this nostalgia act. Why? Because WWE has a much larger audience. And then you look at the key demo and you're like, oh, they sure as hell don't care. Monday night, I'd rather watch Monday Night Football. The solution to WWE to get more fans back, it's pretty simple, guys. I'm going to be honest. The way I see it is you have to change the entire product in the way that you present your entire product. It's a little too childish. It's a little too gimmicky. It's a little bit too micromanaged. You can see it on TV. You can feel it. But nonetheless, WWE won't change a damn thing about it because they don't care. We're in the vocal minority, guys. They're not trying to please us. Just remember that. They're not trying to please us. The next thing I want to talk about is who is the next big star out of wrestling. I really want to talk about this because we had talked a little bit about this on a video about Austin Theory getting a massive push. Clearly, WWE is really behind him. I can respect that when talking about WWE not creating new stars. I can respect the fact that they're trying to do something different. I don't think it's going to be well received. I don't think people care about Austin Theory. So, who is the next big star in wrestling? Who is the next big star in wrestling? Who is the next big star in wrestling? Well, I think the next big star, and when I say the next big star, I'm not talking about a guy who just wins a world championship. I'm talking about elite levels of mainstream success. There's only one person in pro wrestling right now that I think that will absolutely achieve it, and that is Jungle Boy. And I know a lot of people may not agree with this. But between the look and how he's positioned and how he is presented on AEW television, to me, Jungle Boy is the next big star in pro wrestling. I see people criticize him. I see WWE fans criticize AEW because Jungle Boy doesn't look like Brock Lesnar. Not good. I don't agree with that sentiment, but that's just me personally. I don't agree with that sentiment because I don't see Brock Lesnar on the mainstream world. Yeah, he did UFC. He had his fight against Mark Hunt. That's the last fight I remember from Brock Lesnar. Then there was like some controversies after it. See, I think the response here is that people are going to think I'm talking about the next big wrestling star. I'm not talking about wrestling stars. At the end of the day, if all you care about is wrestling, your product doesn't grow. We've seen this time and time again. WWE has great matches at times. AEW has fantastic matches at times. Impact has great matches at times. What I'm trying to tell you guys is this. When I say next big star, I'm talking about the next real deal. The guy who is going to be the mainstream spokesperson for this company. Not just when it comes to wrestling, but when it comes to movies and red carpet and television and interviews and radio and everything like that. I think it's going to be Jungle Boy. MJF is an asshole. He's a prick. He's a heel. He's not going to be that guy. He could be the number 2 guy. But I think it's Jungle Boy because he's just such a nice guy. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I was thinking about it just a little bit, and I was like, maybe this idea of Jungle Boy being the top star would be really good for business. They have a younger audience. You want to bring in a young female audience. There's a belief that Jungle Boy could be a big for that market. So then I was thinking a little bit about WWE, and I'm thinking, who can WWE produce as the next star? There isn't. Roman Reigns will leave WWE. He'll go on to Hollywood. He'll go and make a lot of money in Hollywood. That's fine. That's fine. WWE doesn't develop stars, though, right? When I was talking about how I would change AEW versus WWE, AEW develops people. They make people important. WWE doesn't. That's why I got criticized, because I was saying wins and losses don't matter. Yeah, I just don't think it's logical, right? I don't have to look at a win-loss record to realize that Jungle Boy's the shit. I don't have to look at a win-loss record to see that MJF is a great star. Or Ricky Starks. Right? Nobody says Jungle Boy is going to be the future because he has a record of 10-5. Nobody says that, guys. They don't say that. They look at his work. They see the way he's presented. They see that he's not losing in screwy finishes every single week. Holy shit. It's almost like you could get behind somebody regardless of the win-loss record being touted in your face. So I think Jungle Boy is the guy. From a mainstream standpoint, I think Jungle Boy is the future. Oh, and by the way, TNT, Warner Media, there's a lot of crossover possibilities. Gosh, I don't know. I had this random thought, guys. I thought about, Impractical Jokers on True TV. And I was like, how great would it be if MJF was on that show? Because MJF is a dick. He's an asshole. Perfect. It works great, right? But it's still such a small scale, small spectrum. So Jungle Boy to me is favorably my number one guy. I think he is the future. I think he is the next big star. I think Jungle Boy is somebody that's going to get a lot of mainstream attention as the years go by. And I don't think there is anybody else out there right now as it stands in pro wrestling that's going to achieve that. Look at the WWE model. The Rock became a movie star. John Cena, surprisingly funny and could do movies. He just did Saturday Night Live not that long ago. Now he's got movies coming out. Peacemaker on HBO. Roman Reigns, definitely going Hollywood. Who is the one for AEW? It's going to be Jungle Boy. Because I don't think there's anybody after Roman Reigns. Right? That's another thing. Let's just kind of discuss that. Let's just kind of discuss that for a second. Think about it for a moment. I want everybody to think about this for a moment. Look at AEW. They are not selling you on one star. They're not selling you on one individual. They're selling you on the four pillars. They're selling you on the upcoming talent. They're selling you on the quality and long-term storytelling. And WWE is trying to sell you on one person. If AEW is focused on one person, they become too much like WWE. I think AEW falls apart. The idea that AEW's brand is not defined by one person is an absolute great element to AEW's show. But I look at WWE and it's simply built around Roman Reigns. And I don't have a problem with Roman Reigns specifically. I just have the idea or the impression that one person is just simply not the one that should do everything. That's what I think. So yeah, Jungle Boy. Maybe it's become redundant, but I do think Jungle Boy is the guy that's going to be movie star, red carpet, press, everything. He's going to be the face of wrestling. And it's going to be inadvertent as well. Because AEW, again, they're not just pushing one person to tell you this is who it's going to be. WWE made it very clear that Roman Reigns was going to be the face of WWE. They made it very clear a long time ago that they were doing that. AEW doesn't do that. The only movie that Darby Allin's going to be in is Jackass, which is going to be freaking awesome because this guy is a freaking real life daredevil. But again, Jackass is not like this mainstream thing. It's still a niche. It's kind of like what I was saying with MJF going to Impractical Jokers. Like, it would be incredible because he's an asshole. He's a prick. It would be funny. That's a crossover I would love to see. But it's still not that big of a market in terms of mainstream success. It's an outlet, and it's a good one. But I'm talking about the ultimate babyface, the ultimate good guy. It's Jungle Boy. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. But I think there is a lot of money in Jungle Boy. I don't know. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how you guys always hear me compliment the young talent of AEW? I thought it was funny. The other thing I think that's funny too is like, I think some people think I hate WWE. I don't. I watch WWE. I watch NXT 2.0. We're going to talk about that later. I don't hate WWE, guys. I just think WWE does a terrible job of getting us excited for the future. And they've been doing a terrible job of getting you excited for the future. That's why people are not watching their product as much. They're going to be successful. They're going to be rich, regardless of what Ango on YouTube says. They're going to be successful and rich, regardless of what any YouTuber says. I don't care if your favorite YouTuber has 1 million subscribers or 5 subscribers. We don't have that kind of influence that's going to change WWE. It's not going to happen. Because we don't pay WWE's bills. But I do see a lot of WWE being in a situation where when it comes to the mainstream and the general audience and the casual audience, I think they're going to lose them too eventually. Eventually. Maybe not now, maybe not in 5 years, maybe not in 10 years, but at some point they will. At that point, either WWE is sold or WWE is just, who knows? Anyways, guys, I want to talk to you about whether or not AEW needs gimmick matches. So the reason why I want to talk about AEW and gimmick matches, the reason why specifically is because AEW has had, obviously they did like the death match thing, and they've done lights out matches, which, by the way, I think lights out matches are a really great thing for AEW, and I like the fact that they're not overly used. We've seen them do lumberjack matches. But the real question is, does AEW need gimmick matches? Does AEW need their own gimmick match? I think that's the real question here. And I guess like the reason why I want to talk about this was just because I've noticed something, and as a fan, I actually kind of like this about WWE. Hell in a Cell, Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber, TLC, Extreme Rules, Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber, War Games, right? War Games is coming up. It kind of got me thinking a little bit. It's like WWE does have quite a few cool gimmick matches, right? AEW did Blood and Guts, right? Very cool stuff. Does AEW need their own gimmick match? And I don't feel one way about this or another. Like, I think for the most part, I think AEW does a good job. Again, they do a really good job of storytelling. They had the Stadium Stampede match was really cool. I would like to see more of it. To be honest with you, I think it was more of like a pandemic thing. But when I see AEW and I see the lack of gimmick matches. I'm not necessarily bothered by it or mad about it. I just agree more so if they should do more. That's my question. Should AEW do more gimmick matches? Should they come up with a gimmick match? I ask because I think with gimmick matches in general, there's got to be a purpose for them, obviously. The barbed wire match was absolutely garbage because of the ending, right? If I remember correctly, it was just the end. The match was fine itself, but the ending was the icing on the cake. I remember that. And I remember thinking, holy shit, this was like a terrible idea because the ending really, really was bad. But I just don't know. I'm very curious to see if people think AEW should do more gimmick matches or whatnot. I think we've been in a situation. I think we've been we've been conditioned for WWE to use gimmick matches for like no purpose. And I think the way AEW books their show, honestly, I think they could give gimmick matches a purpose. I think when I look at AEW's product and I see the idea that like Stadium Stampede is something like it's going to live on in history for AEW, which is fantastic stuff for them. But like we don't get it too often, which again isn't a bad thing because then it's like not overexposed, it's not overutilized, there's not really concern there. But I almost wonder what AEW would be like if they came up with a concept themselves. Impact Wrestling, TNA, the X Division, Ultimate X match. My question that I'm leaving all of you today is whether or not you think AEW needs gimmick matches. That's me. I was talking about it with one of my friends. I was talking about it with Tony Pizza Guy. I said, how cool would it be if AEW had a championship belt that offered the champion to create the stipulation every single match? They choose the stipulation, which I don't know if this has been done before. I can't think about it off the top of my head. They do have the Casino Battle Royale match, which is pretty cool. But it's still based on the same concept as a Battle Royale, just with a little twist. I'm just curious. I'm not saying AEW has to do it. I think as is, they're fine without it. I'm curious if they should or whether they will do it. Very interesting stuff. Anyways, guys, before we get to the super chats, I know we got a few earlier. I do want to talk about WWE NXT 2.0 last night. It was a very interesting show. Very, very interesting show. I didn't hate it, honestly. I can see the WWE main roster like influence starting to become more prevalent now. I don't like the idea of Dakota Kai losing, but her and Kaylee Ray was a really good match, by the way. I'm not a fan of what they're doing with Cameron Grimes. I know WWE is getting ready to call him up. Reportedly, it's rumored that's possibly a thing, so they're going to get him out of there probably. Man, I don't know. The only thing about NXT 2.0, so here's what I'll tell you guys what I like about NXT 2.0. It's my favorite product in WWE as it stands. I think NXT 2.0 has basically become the product I enjoy the most because it's just a whole bunch of different talent that we haven't seen before and whatnot. And eventually it might wear off, but I've always liked developmental WWE. The problem, I've always mentioned this too on the show, especially on this show, is I'll say that like WWE is in a situation where NXT could be really, really good, but then once they go to the main roster, it's a failure, so I don't care anymore, which makes it hard to get invested in NXT 2.0. But the thing I like about NXT 2.0 right now, I love War Games matches. I think War Games is sick. You know, MLW did War Chamber. Now you got AEW doing Blood and Guts. Personally, I'm excited about that match. But NXT 2.0 has kind of gotten that main roster rub, and I don't like that necessarily. But again, it kind of goes back to WWE. How would you change WWE? You change it from the beginning, from the base of the company, there's so much that needs to be changed. And a lot of that is starting to rub off on NXT, which I don't think NXT had that before. Forget about ratings talk, forget about everything other than creative. I don't think a lot of people are mad about the idea of new upcoming talent in WWE. I don't think anybody's pissed off about that. I don't think anybody's ever been mad about it. I think they're mad at the way it's presented. Because NXT was always that alternative presentation to the main roster, and now it does look more like the main roster. Despite the fact that I think the product is actually fine, it's just being presented as the main roster type of stuff, and I think that's problem. That's my problem with NXT 2.0. So I'm not one way or another about it. It's kind of like AEW needing gimmick matches, right? I'm not saying you need it. You do a good job without it. But it's something I would like to see because I'm just a fan of gimmick matches. So I look at NXT 2.0 and it's like, okay, the creative and the booking and everything is fine. I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with the characters. Tony D'Angelo, Carmelo Hayes. I see these people. It's cool. I have no problem with it, right? But what I will say is the colors, I just don't like it. The arena looks cool, man. They turned the Performance Center into something cool. I'm fine with that. A lot of that shit would have looked cool with black and gold. And I think eventually WWE does change the colors. They change the logo actually pretty often. I say give it 6 to 8 months, WWE changes the logo, and they go back to something a little bit more grittier. The black and gold was... I'm pissed that they got rid of it now. At first, I didn't care, but like more and more that I was watching, I'm like, I miss the black and gold. But I definitely see that main roster influence. And that to me is something I just don't really care about. Because I like a product that looks different from your main product. That's what I think makes AEW attractive. And again, AEW is a young company, but we have seen AEW time and time again. They've done stupid stuff, you know what I mean? But they always rebound. They listen to their fans. They I don't know, man. They always listen. Anyways, guys, a very interesting show. I'm going to read off the super chats. I know we got a couple of them. I don't know if we got any new members. Let's see. I know Dwayne Jackson. Man, Dwayne Jackson's such a G. All right, let's take a look at these super chats. Sorry about that, guys. So Dwayne Jackson sent in a super chat for $19.99. He goes, with Kenny Omega taking the time off to heal the last Dynamite with wink and nod to a potential breakup from Super Elite, is the seeds being planted for another Blood and Guts if AEW decides to do another one? This is such a freaking wonderful question. Dwayne, I am so glad you asked this because this was actually something I was going to talk about during the stream. I personally thought, with Impact and AEW and some of the plans that were being discussed, there was plans for Bullet Club versus AEW, that type of thing. The Elite versus Bullet Club. At one point, that's what I heard. There was a rumor and whatnot. Now, in the beginning, we were talking about the bad news with the pandemic and this new variant and all these different things that I am starting to believe that idea is going to be held off for a very, very long time. So to answer your question, Adam Cole, the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega, Nakazawa, the Good Brothers, Brandon Cutler, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly joining Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. I don't know, man. Maybe it's like the super undisputed era. The super era of undisputed. Versus Kenny, the Good Brothers, Nakazawa, and Brandon Cutler. Blood and guts. I'm not saying it's impossible. Ideally, I think it'd be pretty cool, actually. It just depends on Kyle O'Reilly. You bring in Red Dragon, Super Elite versus Kenny Omega on whatever he's doing. Because I have a very strong feeling it's going to be Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, for sure, against Kenny and the Good Brothers. Dwayne, you sent in another super chat, so thank you for that. You said this one was also $19.99. Thank you greatly. He goes, with NXT stars go to main rosters and signing 90-day non-compete clause in WWE, and Tony Khan already know they are going to release stars within months of the call-up, what's the point of signing a 90-day non-compete? 90-day non-competes, man, they're different. I don't know how it works in every state. I know the non-compete laws in Michigan are very interesting. I don't think they really hold up as well either. But with WWE and the non-competes, they're part of the contract. So when the WWE superstar signs for $1 million or $800,000, they're not negotiating to take that off. I mean, it's simple as that. The representation for these wrestlers, I don't know if they have agents or management teams or whatnot. I don't know who's looking at their contracts. Personally, I feel like 90-day non-competes aren't really a bad thing because at the end of the day, those people are still getting paid their WWE salary for 90 days. So I'm not one of those guys who are actually mad about 90-day non-competes because they're still getting paid. Had they been unpaid, then I would be a little bit more concerned. But personally, since they're getting paid, they're still getting their WWE money. They get to work and do nothing for 90 days. I don't really know how you can argue that. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of wrestlers actually negotiate against that. They're going to get paid for their 90 days, and I think what ends up happening is after their 90 days, they're going to go and sign a contract and then go get more money because they can use their WWE experience as leverage. That's just my personal opinion. If anybody else has a super chat that they would like to send, go ahead and check it out in the chat. You could just click the money sign near the chat. You could send a super chat or a super sticker. I don't even know what a super sticker is, to be honest. But if you guys want to send something, you got any questions you would like for me to answer, let me know. Guys, I want to just point this out before we go off the air because this is so cool. I don't even know if I can pick this up. I got me a new baby, a new toy. And you guys will see that there is going to be a lot changing about the show. I was having some issues with the images loading up on today's show, so I didn't want to push it back after not feeling good yesterday. But that new toy that I got is going to allow us to do the live call-ins. So you guys can call into the show. We can debate. Because again, there is nothing more beautiful than having a civil conversation. Civil conversation. We can agree, we could disagree, we can talk, have some fun. We're going to be doing some live call-ins. So keep in mind if you guys want to join, to do call-ins, it's completely free. You don't have to send a super chat. I'll open up the phone lines. This new bad boy, I got to get it tested and working. New microphone arrives probably today or tomorrow. So ultimately some really cool stuff coming to the show. I'm really focused on it. I haven't been feeling the greatest the last few days. So I am definitely going to rest after this. Got some news videos to drop. Keep that in mind. If you guys aren't subscribed, maybe you're watching for the first time and you're not subscribed, I am going to have some news videos for you today. It's going to be some really good ones, so make sure you guys check it out. We have 2 minutes. If anybody wants to send in a super chat, this literally happens every single show. So Dwayne Jackson now with the $4.99 super chat. You guys are incredible. Do you think Pritchard and Dunn are running NXT 2.0 off a cliff with being Raw 2.0? No, because Pritchard and Dunn aren't running NXT. It was confirmed that Triple H still runs NXT, but right now he's at home resting due to his cardiac event. Basically, what's happening is Shawn Michaels is overseeing the creative of the show, whereas Kevin Dunn is just helping with the production, which obviously explains the huge resemblance to the main roster type stuff. Pritchard is nowhere near NXT. Vince McMahon is nowhere near NXT. Shawn Michaels was actually promoted to Executive Vice President of, Executive Vice President of Talent Relations. Vice President of Talent Relations, something like that. So Shawn Michaels right now is running the day-to-day with Matt Bloom and a few of the other OGs from NXT. Triple H is resting. Apparently, I don't know if it was Meltzer or Alvarez. Somebody tweeted out, I seen it today, somebody was reporting that Triple H's condition was actually really serious when it happened. So WWE kind of kept a tight lid on that. I'm not really sure too much. But yeah, right now it is not Pritchard. He is not running it. Dunn is not running NXT. They have nothing to say when it comes to creative. That's all done by Shawn Michaels. Pretty much for the most part. Thank you again, Dwayne Jackson, for all of your super chats, man. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Does anybody else want to drop a super chat? We have about a minute left or so. This happens every show. The super chats come in right as we're about to get off air. Just from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you guys for sticking with me. And we'll give it another minute. And if no more super chats come in with the next minute, we'll see you tomorrow. But don't forget, guys, we have tons of like wrestling news to go over. There's so much stuff coming to the channel, guys. Let's definitely kick some ass. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody stopping by. This is Ango in the Morning. It is now 11:02 p.m. on December 1st. I hope everybody has a great holiday season. We got a lot of stuff happening on the show. We're going to be doing some giveaways because I am super thankful and grateful for all of you. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. All right. I'll see you guys. Take care. Have a wonderful night. Bye.